Ladies and gentlemen, we really only know one thing, and that is that you have to die. We also know, of course, that you're going to get sick, and we know a lot of things about why people get sick and so on. And we have tried our best to understand why people get sick when they do, but we're still unable to say exactly when the time and place is going to be. Because some people seem to do all the right things. My favorite example is Arthur Ashe. He was the first black Wimbledon champion, a role model citizen in just about every way. And he died at age 44. The opposite end of the spectrum was Winston Churchill, who smoked like a chimney, drank like a fish, had quite a pot belly, sedentary lifestyle, painter, author, high-stress job, took England through the war, and he lived to 94. So it's difficult for us to anticipate what's going to happen to any individual. We just don't know. But I'll tell you this. If we take 1,000 people and divide them into 5 groups like this, with the healthiest people on the left and the least healthy people on the right, then we can pretty much guarantee you that in 20 years' time, there are going to be a lot more people alive on the left than on the right. So it comes down to a choice, ladies and gentlemen, that you have to make about your health. Where exactly on that in that spectrum, in that continuum, do you intend to live your life? What group do you actually prefer to belong to? That is your personal responsibility. It has nothing to do with us doctors. You have to choose how you want to live. What we can tell you, however, a lot more about is what you're going to die from. And in this day and age, in the 21st century, the biggest challenges are going to be in this area. Non-communicable disease. We all die from these nowadays. Heart disease, cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure, stroke. And they all have one thing in common. They're what we call lifestyle diseases. Lifestyle diseases come on slowly, silently, steadily, over a long period of time. And they reflect the choices that we make more than anything else. Choices about type of food that we eat, the kind of stress and where we are under and how we manage it, the amount of sleep we get, the risks that we take on the road, and so on. But most of all, the research has shown quite clearly that it is our choices about exercise that will make the biggest difference. When we die from these things, doctors focus on what we died from. So that the doctor looks at the cancer or the heart attack or the stroke in what is really an overall chain of health. And he tries to get down inside that disease to try to find out what caused it, in that particular link in the chain and why it broke there. And of course the doctors dig deeper so that they go further into the chain, and what do they find but further chains in which they have to find broken links. And so it goes until we've nowadays gotten right down to the genetic code. And disappointingly, we have still not been able to come up with solutions to these health problems. Because it seems to me, and I certainly suggest that you think about it in this way, that we should be more concerned with the integrity of the whole chain, with the health of that chain, and that it is our best chances lie in improving the integrity of the chain of health. That, more than anything else, is going to depend on how much we subject that chain to, the damage to the chain, the risks that we take with our health. Poor nutrition and toxicity and stress and safety issues, the cardiovascular risk factors that the doctors like to measure, blood pressure, blood sugar, and so on. But perhaps most of all, it's going to be our physical condition. This, again, we are very sure about as a result of the research that we have done. We doctors are very guilty, for a very long time of not paying enough regard to our physical condition. It is literally the most important factor in determining your future and the quality of life that you will enjoy in the years to come. For a simple reason. We human beings are mammals. And like all mammals, we are supposed to consist primarily of muscle. Ladies and gentlemen, it is muscle that does everything. Everything. From blinking eyelids to talking to walking to dancing to making love. Energy is muscles that give us energy. Muscles are little factories, and it's the efficiency of those factories that determine our health. It is a deterioration in those factories that lead to these conditions that we ultimately label lifestyle disease and call things like heart attack and cancer and diabetes and so on. The weakest link in a chain of health that has deteriorated overall. And we finally end up trying to treat these conditions and get back the health that we have thrown away. No, we have to be concerned about the state of our muscles. If you don't use your muscles, you lose them. You lose them at the rate of 1 to 2% a year, which may not sound like much, but if you multiply that by 30 years, you will understand very clearly why old people are hobbling around with a stick. It's as simple as that. They have lost their muscles. You have to exercise. I'm sorry, there's no way around that. If you are to maintain a high quality of life in the years to come, you have to exercise. The biggest health challenge in the 21st century is going to be people's lifestyles. And the biggest challenge within that endeavor is going to be to get people moving. Sedentariness, as it's called, is the biggest health challenge of the future. And so we have to find ways to get moving. The only thing more difficult than getting an exercise program going is mental exertion. We need motivation, we need incentives, we need measurable targets to work towards. We need the support of our friends and family. And of course, when we do succeed in getting fitter and stronger and looking good, we like to be recognized for having done so. So we need to find ways to get people to move. Well, after I became a doctor, I became a golfer. And I thought, it was in there that I thought I found an answer to this little problem. You see, to be a golfer, you have to master all of these things. How to drive the ball off the tee box, how to pull it and fade it, how to approach the green, chip on the ball, putt into the hole. You have to have the determination and tenacity if you're going to do well. But all of this is summed up in golf, in one figure, and that is your handicap. So that if you meet a golfer anywhere in the world, and he says his handicap is 5 or 15 or 25 or 35, you have a pretty good idea of where he is, where the game of golf is concerned. And he knows how much more he has to do if he's to be a better golfer. And that is perhaps the important thing. In one figure, you've summed up all that this person can be, where the game of golf is concerned. And so it occurred to me that the same thing could apply to our health, and in particular to our fitness. That if we could find a jog-walk handicap, which really has to do with how fast you can get from point A to point B, in that one figure we will have encapsulated all of this that it takes to do that. Your fitness, strength, endurance, and so on. A single figure, which basically says how fast you get from one point to the next. It doesn't even matter if you're in a wheelchair. It is still the same challenge. It's the same issues that are involved. And with a handicap to tell you exactly how you're doing, you have a better idea of where you stand and a better idea of where you need to go from here. And so the question arises when you see a gentleman on the road jogging, how fit is he? He may think he's pretty fit, and you may think he looks pretty fit, but we don't really have an objective measure of that. And believe me, it would be very useful for all the reasons that we've discussed to have one. If we can say that he's a C5, which means that he can complete 5 kilometers in 28 to 40 minutes, we would know how much effort he has put in so far. We know the sort of handicaps that he's facing in being a better runner. And he would know how much work he has to do if he's going to prove that handicap. And so we assign to the individual a single figure that gives him a pretty good idea and gives us a pretty good idea of where he is working, where he is on this challenge of being a healthier person, a fitter person. So a handicap becomes something that you measure simply by finding a course and seeing how long it takes you with your best effort to go from point A to point B. Of course, to standardize it, we work in terms of 1 kilometer or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 or even a marathon. You measure yourself, you know how good you are, and that is not just, it's not a judgment in any way, it's a baseline for change. It's a way in which you can now take charge of your health, set goals, motivate yourself, participate in competitions, and generally strive to be a stronger, fitter, and healthier person. And this is something that we really need everybody to do. So the jog walk handicap looks like this for a 5K. If you do it in 28 minutes, you're a C5, yes, but you're a C5A. If you can only do it in 40 minutes, you're a C5, but you're a C5D. And that means that we can organize competitions and give exactly the amount of time that should be allowed between an A and a D in order to have a fair race. So it allows us to get out there and compete with each other. It allows us to come together in groups. Say, look, we are C5s, we can all train together because we're not going to be leaving each other behind by too much. We can participate and get the support that we need. The handicap makes it easier to get our exercise programs going. The handicap then varies for all the different distances like this, so that at 1K, the B1A is doing it in 4 minutes, while the C is doing it in 6, while for a 10K, the D10A is doing it in 1 hour and 50 minutes, while the slower of us will be doing it perhaps 2 hours and 45 minutes. But we can still all participate in the same exercise. We can all still be part of that group that is determined to improve. The overall handicap will look like this. It's a chart that we put up in the club, and everybody can know from how well they've done on their personal measurements, where they stand, where they start, if you like, and how far they have to go on each particular distance. It is something that we would like to see adopted by clubs, by groups, by friends, by individuals. Something that they can take, that they find very useful in order to take that next step that is so necessary. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't stress too much how much we need to do this. This is our major health problem. People have to get moving. I hope I've been able to persuade you. You have to exercise. I hope you accept that the quality of your life is going to depend in the years to come on how much exercise you get. And I hope that you will be able to find that this tool useful in actually getting out there and getting the program going. Getting together with other people and explaining to them how the handicap works, introducing it, using it, and of course providing the feedback so that we can improve it. In the long run, it's all going to come back to that choice that we have to make as individuals, about this life and the lottery that it is. Because the alternative is simply to sit around and wait and hope for the best and see what happens. And I don't think that's good enough. Thank you very much.